How is everyone doing tonight? So we are doing some wiring. So tonight you will see crimping and stripping and crimping and stripping and crimping and stripping all night long. So as it is right now, for those of you who haven't been following along, we're at the point now where I got all the wires coming down from the gantry and the motors and everything coming to the bottom. I've got my Taco Raven installed, so you're going to see me wire that up. My Raspberry Pi, my power supply. I'm not running a separate power supply for the RPI. I'm running just a buck converter. And then I got another 12 volt for the fans. So I won't be doing the bed tonight because the bed is actually, when I build Voron, the very last thing I install because it's heavy. So I'll be probably doing that another time. So this will just be, and I don't have the screen yet, obviously. But that's easy add-on. So bring out the strippers. Yes, tonight we have the generic Amazon copy of some other higher quality one. And the Home Depot specials. And these ones that everyone has a pair of somewhere in their basement or in a toolbox somewhere. They're not great for much, but they're good for crimping your connector, your spade terminals. That's all I use them for. So let's get to it. So usually when it comes to wiring, I like to start at the power. So I'll wire up the power supply, check the power supply. Then I'll wire the power supply to the controllers, make sure everything's getting properly fed power before I start hooking stuff up to it. So the first thing we got to do is hook up our inlet. So we have to make some little wires. So I can't remember what they recommend as spec if everything's 20 and 24 volt or wire, but for anything mains, I use 16 American wire gauge just because I have it already. So I run 16 for my mains and everything else is 20 or 24 volt usually. But that's just kind of habit. So tonight is just going to be a lot of wiring. So it's going to be a very a night full of question and answers. So if you have any questions about your build, or printers or Voron in general, go ahead because it's just going to be a lot of crimping and stripping. My belt needs additional holes this summer. I have been, the first couple months of the whole quarantine thing, my budget was so low because I wasn't spending on anything and I had bought all this food and I was ready to hole up and wait it out. And then everything got boring and I started cooking. So now my food budget's gone insane because I can't do anything else but cook. So I know that feel. So I believe the power inlet that we spec, I think it was the Triangle Labs one we ended up going with, is already wired up. This one I've had it for a bit because I bought a bunch of them a while ago from I think a reputable dealer. I haven't had any issues with them. I know some of the cheaper ones have a tendency to explode. So don't cheap out on anything mains, obviously. But this one doesn't come wired up, so I have to wire it up myself. And if you're ever confused on how to wire it up, if you pull up I think it's the Voron 2.1 manual, it has a little pictograph on how to wire them. They're usually all the same, but check your manufacturer's instructions and all that jazz. Do not, okay, VAVE. I found that when crimping spades, I could pull it loose. Ended up soldering spade connectors instead of following my heat shrink. You should never solder a crimped connection. The reason for that is soldering, while it is hard and it's a solid, if you solder something and then crimp something onto it, over time it actually, with heating and cooling of current going through it, it actually can work itself loose. So you do not want to solder a crimped connection. Yeah, you really don't want to solder crimped connections. It is not safe. Okay, so we'll hook the ground up first. Yeah, I know with the amp loads you're looking at, 20 is probably fine for pretty much everything. But I just out of habit, I run 16 gauge on anything that's mains, personally. So in case you haven't noticed, I'm not using the DIN mounts that are spec for 2.4. One, I don't have them. And two, I'm using a Taco Raven, which we don't have a mount for it for DIN yet. I'd have to design one because there's only 20 in existence. So at this time, I'm just using printed mounts for everything that mounts to the extrusion. And actually, the power supply mount that I'm using is actually from V2.0. So if it ain't broke. Now for connecting to your actual power supply, you're going to want spade connectors. Kit, yes, the filtered mains inlet, while it is still, it's a good connector. The we looked into it in the LRS 200. If you get the proper Meanwell one, it has a built-in filtered circuit or whatever whatever the filtered portion is. It has it built in. Now it is a good plug. If you want to still keep using it, by all means, keep using it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just found it's kind of overkill for what we need because you're doubling up on the filtering. So we went back to a more traditional style. The small black box, this is a buck converter. So I actually ordered this guy. This is the spec one for the V0, but I didn't end up using it, so I'm going to use it in this guy. Patrick asking if 0.8 millimeter difference on the frame is an issue. If that's the best you can get, honestly, it probably wouldn't make that big of a difference. Like 0.8 millimeter over the size of the frame is really not much. So you should be okay. If the best you can do is get 0.8 millimeter. Why spade connector instead of ring? No chance of a ring slipping. If your wires are getting tugged and pulled out, something's really gone wrong. I've never had an issue with spades. They are clamped in. I've tugged on these just to try, and the crimp will fail before they slip out, I've found. So I'm not too concerned about having to use ring, and it's just easier too for maintenance. You don't have to completely unscrew the screw. You can just loosen it, slide it in and out. That's why I don't use rings. If you have a powerful ATX power supply, is it more beneficial to run thicker wires everywhere and use it directly, or beneficial to step up to 24 volts? So I don't know why people still use ATX power supplies. Like, yes, they have good ratings and they're 80 plus platinum, bronze, whatever power supply ratings are. But printers run better at higher voltages. Now, if we could all run everything at 36 volts, that would be ideal. But pretty much good luck finding stuff that runs 36 volts. Because the motors will take 36 volts all day, and a lot of drivers will handle 36 volts. The higher the voltage, the more efficient motors run, the cooler they run, and the quieter they run. So, and less amps. So less amps mean you don't need as thick wires. So you kind of really want to use the highest voltage you can for these printers. So yes, you could use an ATX power supply because the reason ATX or 12 volt is so common with 3D printers is because everyone ran ATX power supplies back in the day. But nowadays, with quality meanwhile power supplies, there's really no point in going to an ATX power supply, in my opinion. If you already have one and you really want to use it, it's not going to hurt, but it's still 12 volts. The printer, the hot end heats up faster too. So you really want to run 24 volts at least. Ideally 36, but again, most controller boards won't support it. Taco Raven will though, but that's only for the motors. So you have to feed it a separate 36 volts specifically for the motors. Okay. Yes, 2.2 was really overkill because we took, it was kind of like taking what was wrong with 2.1. Well, not what was wrong, but what needed improvement with 2.1 and going nuts on it instead of just starting from scratch and redesigning everything. So instead of having to reinforce certain things, we just designed it from the ground up to be just good and not needing reinforcement, for example. And then also with the ballooning cost to build and whatnot, we really took a step back and tried to streamline 2.4 as much as possible. And by we, I mean the designers. I'm just the guy who tinkers with them and tests stuff. Can you talk about the 3 versus 4 screws on the bed? I have Voron 2.1 and first time when... So the reason you want to use... I use 4 screws to mount it, but I leave 1 screw loose. And the reason for that is we don't have a kinematic mount or whatever the fancy doodad term of the month is now for it. But basically your bed, when you heat it up, wants to expand. And if you have all 4 corners tight, it'll bow because it's got to expand. So by basically only tightening 3 screws, you just give it a little bit more room for it to expand naturally. And just it's kind of like it's just to let it grow on its own instead of constricting it, overly constricting the bed. Now if you look into it, there are like kinematic design mounts that allow thermal expansion and whatnot, but really this guy's been running with 4 screws, 3 3 of them tight, 1 loose for 2 years, and I haven't noticed any issues with the bed. And it's plenty flat. So will I gain anything by going to a super fancy kinematic mount? No, I don't think so. I think it's kind of overkill for a 3D printer. Mundane Cemetery. What country are you in? Because Meanwell, you can get anywhere in North America and Europe. You can get a Meanwell just fine. And I believe there are Asian market vendors for it, because it is a proper, like, legit company. So you should be able to get a Meanwell power supply from any reputable electronics source. At least I'm pretty sure you can. I haven't looked outside of Canada. Stepping up 12 to 24 volt though in a printer, that's not something I would do. I haven't looked into that. I don't know what the requirements for that would be, but I wouldn't run a 12 volt power supply and step it up to 24 volts. That sounds like it would have some issues there. The reason it doesn't have 3 screw holes standard is because it mounts on 4. Originally, it's because it's based off the original V1 bed. Now, there are mods to mount it with 3 points. You would have to run your bed extrusions. Instead of going front to back, they would have to go side to side. And the problem is you would have to space them out more. And it is possible, but on earlier revisions, mounting everything was tied to those two being exactly where they are. Now with the DIN rails, you actually could easily do it. But would you really gain much? Not really. I don't think so. But you could do it. Well, I don't think the bed. It's a cast aluminum tooling plate. It's plenty stiff. It's not gonna, if you only mount it on 2 corners, it's not gonna bend. It's relatively stiff. It's not really going anywhere. Okay, so we got that. Wrap it up with some of this. Now this cable wrap, I like using this stuff in the basement compartment here, just because it allows you to add wires in and out throughout. So if you had, to split off a wire, you can easily do that. And then also, because I can't remember where I got these at. These are little 3M adhesive back, so double-sided tape, stick on zip tie holders. So grab a whole whack of these, stick them all over the bottom wherever you're running wires, and use that to cable manage everything. Because especially with anything mains, I like to zip tie that down so that it doesn't move. what is the recommended current for the afterburner? I believe it's in the assembly instructions, or it's in the default config. I think it's anywhere between 0.4 and 0.6 amps. I think I run mine at 0.5, if I remember correctly. So yeah. Yeah, if you're in Russia, if all you can get is a 12 volt ATX power supply, I would just run it at 12 volts. I wouldn't play with stepping it up to 24. I would just run it at 12 volts, in my opinion. Okay, so let me see if I can find where I have an extra ATX cord. I do. So, I got the power supply wired up. Off. Plug it in. And see if we get a light. Yay, we get a light. So, if you've never done this before, this is one of those things you should do. Kind of like when you get a heater cartridge, you check the resistance to make sure you did get the correct one. It's not a mislabeled. You should always check the voltage of your power supply because they are adjustable. So in this case, it's a 24 volt power supply, so I should be getting 24 volts. Am I on the right one? Do I have the right one? Let's see here. Nope, I have the wrong one. Yes, that was a spark. What did I do wrong? Let's see here. Kill the power. And that's why. Yep, sparky spark. Okay, let's see here. Yep, I killed the power supply. So, it's going to be a short night. I think I had it plugged into the wrong terminal on the multimeter here, I think. Great. Yes! Wow! Holy shit, this is why you don't do it at Oh Dark Stupid. I measured the input, not the output. Okay, everyone, that's how you kill a power supply. I'm pretty sure that's dead. Don't measure the wrong thing. Yeah, blew the fuse. Let's check here. Okay. Take that out. See, this was all planned. This is to see if you're paying attention. Yep. So, if you ever want to know, fuse is popped. So we'll get a new fuse here. Yeah, it's a replaceable fuse. So let's see here. Pop a new fuse in. Hey, we got a light. It's gonna be fun to go back and watch that. Okay, so now I'm gonna measure the voltage out instead of the voltage in, like a proper human. Oh, okay. Do I have this plugged in the right one? So I'm getting dropout as soon as I connect anything to it. Try the second one. Did I kill the internal power? No. What the fuck? Something's fried. Yeah, I know it has a pot that adjusts it, but I'm trying to read the voltage. I'm trying to figure out. Let's try this. Yeah, it's not reading right, I think. Oh, no. I had it plugged into the wrong terminal. There we go. So we got 24.4 volts. Yeah, I had the positive in here, and I had it in here. It's supposed to be in there. I'm not an electrical guy. I'm more a hardware guy. So, yeah, I've blown my fair share of ramps by hooking up stuff backwards. So anytime anything electrical comes about, I'm going to recommend follow the manual and manufacturer's recommended advice. So, as you can see, we're a little over right now. So it's running a little hot. So you can actually use a little screwdriver here. If I can find my little one. And you can actually adjust the potentiometer. And you're going to want to make sure it is what you want it to be. So, let's go right to 24. There you go, 24 volts. So make sure we didn't kill any of the rails. 24.1. Honestly, 0.1, 0.2, it ain't gonna matter. There we go. Okay. So now we're gonna kill the power and unplug everything. So, learning experience. This is why I always wire up the power supply first. Because if I had everything hooked up and then I applied power, I probably would have shorted a lot more. Instead of just blowing a 5-cent fuse. Which, that's why everything has fuses, because people aren't perfect. So, we're good there. So I'm actually going to start moving on to wiring up the taco. So let me check the comments here of my dummery. Are they all on the same bus? I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Again, I'm not an electrical guy. Yeah, a few extra, like, honestly, I'm sure most components, especially, like, good quality stuff, won't care if you run at 25 volts. I just like to make sure it's at 24. Technically, if you run it at a little bit higher voltage, you'll get a little bit better performance out of it, but it's, you know, a couple percentage points. So, that fuse is garbage. Moving on. So now, let's see here. So I'm going to have to mount this guy. And I'm going to have to mount this guy. This guy is it's just a cheap buck converter. And it's just going to give me 12 volts for these two Noctua fans to keep the Taco cold. Because the Taco does have 2130s, which need active cooling. And I don't have any 60mm fans for spec. Because I bought these, over a year ago. So this guy will probably just get taped down. But this guy I'm going to want to actually mount. So, probably go like that, and then I can run the wires into that. So, I'm going to have to cut a hole here. Where is my knife? There it is. Yes, it is a spec beam well. It should be a spec beam well. I believe it is. I've got so many random power supplies. Does the buck converter... I have... no, this one only gives 5 volts. And that one's just... This one's just going to power the Raspberry Pi because it's a 5 volt 10 amp one. It's actually way overkill for a Pi. But shouldn't have to worry about any issues with low voltage. So right now I'm just cutting a hole in the core plate just so I can get at the extrusion so I can mount this guy. There we go. Wiring all the wires from the Z-chain into a terminal block. I have seen that done. It does look really good, don't get me wrong. I've been tempted to do it. I just never really got around to it. And at this point, I'm kind of like, whatever. But it does look real good. If you want to do it, there's absolutely no reason not to do it, other than it's just going to take you a little bit more time. Certain things, like running a separate terminal block for some of the commonly swapped out components, probably would be a good idea. But yeah, that just, that's a personal preference type thing, in my opinion. What current do I run motors for? It should all be in the default config. I run my motors on this guy over here at anywhere from... I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember. I think they're all around an amp. Yeah, roughly all around an amp, I think. Okay, so I'm going to put another one in there. Okay, came late to the party. Why is the SSR mounted on floor instead of DIN rails? I am not using DIN because I don't have DIN. I'm using non-standard components that don't have DIN mounts yet, like the Taco Raven here. Plus, I already had all this stuff printed, and YOLO. Plus, this is a non-standard size too, so not that that really affects anything, but just one of those things. right now these mounts, this is pretty much like a combination of 2.1 or 2.2 mounts and 2.0 mounts actually. There we go. Yeah, this guy I'll do with glass. The Coroplast better insulation. Maybe because it does have the little air pockets in it, but are you actually going to see an actual measurable difference that'll matter? Probably not. Yes, that's another good point, Mundane. Higher voltage is more torques usually for the motors. Yeah, this is an SSR right here. So this is the SSR. It's mounted to the side of the power supply. This is a buck converter that's going to power the Pi. And this is a little buck converter that's just going to power these two fans that I have here. So, will LDO motors become spec? I do not know. Because we're not having any issues with the OMCs. They're running just fine. So will they ever become like the actual recommended spec? I don't know. So just because I already have it, I'm just going to run some 16 gauge to the other stuff. So we'll give the taco some power. Yes, ABS panels are nice because you can, acetone weld ABS print stuff to it. So if you want to mount something to it, you can just print a mount for it and then just acetone weld it to it, and it's pretty much permanent. And it's more rigid, so you can actually like hang stuff off of it. Like my V0, all the electronics in the bottom are hanging off the ABS sheet. Yeah, ABS panels can be hard to get, especially in the larger sizes. I know small size are pretty common, especially like on Amazon. You can just go and grab some. But the larger sizes are kind of a pain if you don't have a proper source you can get them from. So we need to feed in there and there. Now, one of the downsides with Taco here is because it is so cramped, we actually had to put all the labeling for everything on the bottom. So, like, normally, like, you look at a Duet or an SKR on the top, it'll say a lot of times which is what. On this, everything's on the bottom. So, that'd be... fin is this guy. Yeah, so that's fin, ground, so it's fin, ground. Okay. Right? Yeah. And then also on the Taco, you kind of have to jumper it like you do on a ramps, where you have you run power to it and you got to run it between the two block terminals. You have to do that here too because you have motor in and then you have actual controller in. So because we're feeding it both 24 volts, I'm going to run power here and then run a separate wire to there, just like how you do on a ramps basically. On the PIF page, it says you're contributing to PIF. I did a lot. I did 20, I think, 2.1 PIFs. But then, I got a young son and work and whatnot. I just got, real life kind of took over, and World of Warcraft for a bit. But I am gonna try and get back into it. But I did do a lot of PIFs for 2.1. Basically, I was pretty much feeding all of Canada. Max is here. Yeah, I went to measure my output voltage by measuring my input voltage, and made a little sparky spark and blew a fuse. It's all good. It was all just a demonstration to show them how to properly check voltages. It was totally a scheduled learning experience. Totally. Whatever the manual says for wires is what I would use. I'm just using 16 gauge for this stuff because I'm running kind of low on the lower gauge stuff, and I have a ton of this stuff. So I'm using 16 gauge for a lot of this because I have a ton of it. But if the manual says use 20, use 20. You'll be fine. Yes, and I also showed how to replace a fuse. Oh yeah, okay. So anytime you're using wire to wire, you want to use Microfit 3, Molex Microfit 3. If you're using JST, Molex KK, those are only for connected to a board. Okay. So if you're connecting any wire to wire anywhere, you want to use Molex. Molex Microfits. It also depends on where you are in the world too. Like here in North America, our walls are 200 volt or 120 volt. Over in Euroland, it's 220 or 240 or whatever the hell it is. So they can get by with thinner wires over there versus here. We got to go with beefy boys. There we go. Now I'm really paranoid, so I really want to make sure that I have this guy wired up correctly. Because again, on the taco, everything is labeled on the bottom. So I'm just pulling up the file right now on it. Yeah, it's not volts. That comes up all the time because people, I always see it with beds. All the time with printer beds. Because everyone's like, oh, I don't want to run a mains powered bed because it's more dangerous. So I'm going to run a 12 volt bed and have to use, double aught gauge wire because it's trying to suck down 30 amps. You can run a V2 bed off of, 20 gauge wire. So it's not the volts, it's the amps that'll get you. Voron hardware. Let's see, Taco Raven. So if that's the X motor, yeah, VIN is the outer. Right, so VIN, neutral, VIN, neutral. Okay. So, let's feed this guy some power again. And make sure we get some blinky lights on the taco. And no sparks. Please no sparks. Because if there are sparks, this Taco Raven when we received them, we had to solder everything onto it. So all the headers, the fuses, everything on the board, you have to solder on except for the SMD stuff. And I've never actually powered it. So this thing was put together like a year ago. I hooked up a USB connection to it, so the USB power works, but I've never actually fed 24 volts into this thing before. So if it blows up, that could be a million things. It could either be my soldering from a year ago, a board defect, or my wiring right now. So I'm going to hope we don't have any sparks, because that's going to make a really short night. But this will be the first time this board has actually been fed 24 volts. So here we go. Got blue lights. So let's see, what do we got? We got VIN, we got 12 volt, we got 5 volt, and 3.3 volts. Sweet. No smoke. Okay. And yeah, these lights are like bright as shit. So there we go. Okay. Taco power works. Okay. So that's got its power. So now the next thing we're going to have to feed is our buck converter here. And this guy I'm just going to use little wires. Now I know you're supposed to use like different red and blue, black, and then white and black depending on the voltage and whatnot. But I don't have my electrical certificate, so I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just going to go back to red and black here. So we're going to power our buck converter up here and make sure our Raspberry Pi gets some power. I'm going through these terminals so quick. Where's the magic smoke? You have to tune in at the beginning of the stream for the magic smoke. Mr. Oaks, hello. Nobody get electrocuted. Was there a reason you're using the taco board that is more interesting than... I'm using the taco because it's what I have. The only other boards, like... I could build this with a ramps and a SKR Mini 1.0. I think is the other board I have. But I'm using the taco because we developed our own board like a year and a half ago. And I want to use it. And by we, I mean, again, people who are smarter than me. But it's been collecting dust, and it was supposed to be put in this guy when it was a 2.2, and I never got around to it. So yeah, so it's going to be a taco. Although it's 2130s, so if I fully expect that if I do have issues, I'm prepared to rip it out and go to like a dual SKR setup. So, because 2130s are kind of old hat now, and there is much better out there. I'm actually kind of worried. Will these fit? Yes, they will. Okay. Well, the thing is, is Taco Raven 32? Yes, it is 32-bit. It didn't fail due to high cost. Like, don't get me wrong, the cost of it was quite high. But we only ever made 20 of them. So we had to pay a fab shop to set up a whole line to build 20 boards. So, of course, the cost per board was going to be much higher than, you know, a Duet, for example, or any other higher-end board. You know, there's savings in numbers. It didn't fail. It was never meant to be a purchasable item. Like, you know, there's kind of a group of us that were kind of hoping that if it was really good, you know, we can kind of, we drop the plans and hope, you know, Big Tree Tech or another company would just, you know, start making them for their own and we would just buy them from them. But nobody was going to sell them. Like, you gotta remember, Voron, we're not selling printers. You know, this is just for fun, basically. So there is no, it's not a failed board. It's just, it did what we wanted it to do. Like, yeah, it does have some issues. I mean, the first thing we had to do was replace all the sense resistors on it by hand when you got it. Which, if you ever look at a board and see how small a sense resistor is, trying to solder a sense resistor with a TS100 is quite fun. And yeah, 2130s are kind of lacking. 2209s would have been much better, but those weren't around at the time. There's, you know, it was the first board we designed. Nope, nobody started making them. The 20 that exist are the 20 that are going to exist. Okay, get the multimeter again. Make sure this buck converter is giving out 5 volts. Because I don't want to short my Raspberry Pi. Yeah, you're not going to see a taco on Alley. Okay, bright lights. $5 volts. Good. Okay, now I've never actually cut up a USB cable. So I got to figure out here. What kind of wires I need here. So I'm hoping these are the same on all of them, because I got a red, green, black, white. So I want red and black, right? Yep, red and black. Okay. That was easy. How does the gantry system leveling work? There are pivot points built into the mounts for the gantry to the vertical rails. So there is some flex built into the frame. You can't see it here because it's upside down. But if you look on my YouTube channel, I do have a video on how the tramming routine works on a Voron V2. Has anyone used a cheapo MKS board on a board? If the Clipper CPU, if Clipper supports the MCU, you theoretically can use it. So if you wanted to, you can run a Voron with having a ramps run a screen, have a SKR run your 4 extruder or your 4 Z steppers, have a duet running your other steppers and your hookups for your hot end and whatnot, and then you could also have a standard Arduino Nano powering some other board. Like, as long as the MCU is supported by Clipper, the pinout, you can pretty much run it on a Voron. Okay, so I need to strip more of this. Of course, I picked the USB cable with the most oversized amount of shielding and rubber on it to use as my sacrificial one. Well, the cheapest 32-bit, the stock config, 32-bit doesn't matter with Clipper. A ramps with Clipper will outrun a duet, and that's 32-bit. So 32-bit versus 8-bit doesn't matter. 32-bit's cheaper, but with Clipper, you're looking at step rates that are so much higher than a printer. There we go. So much shielding. SKR 1.3 can run 2209s, yes. That is actually the stock config for Voron, is SKR 1.3s, 2 of them with 2209s. You can use 1.4s as well. It's just the default config is for 1.3s. Okay, so I need black and red. So goodbye white and green. So this is going to be fun because these are really thin wires. Now I won't be able to crimp anything onto these obviously, so I'm just going to have to screw them bare into the terminal. Which I don't, actually, yeah, I'm going to have to. They're so thin. I really don't like this, but what can you do? If you're referring to the limit, that was like ramps by itself, I think. Because for the longest time, up until half a year ago, the default config for Voron was just dual ramps and a Clipper. You know what? I'm going to actually... I forgot I had these. Where'd I put them? There we go. Continuity mode. You know what? Good point. That is a good point, Raymond. So let's see here. I don't know what side's ground. I would have to look on the bottom of the well, the ground works. Yeah, yellow. I got an extra Raspberry Pi just in case. So. Well, there we go. Now the pie is all by itself, so it can't fry anything. In all honesty, I probably should just, unscrew it and check underneath. But, I think we're good. Have you ever considered building Vorons with your Taco Ravens? Oh god, no. I've been building this Voron for what, a month and a half now? Now, in all honesty, this probably would have been done in a weekend. But live streaming it eats up a lot of the time. Yeah, an OG Raspberry Pi is probably a little too far down on the. I wouldn't use an OG Pi. Personally, it's just a little too old. Okay. We got lights. So let's take a look here. That goes in there, that goes in there. Feed her some power. Where's the kaboom? There's supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. Oh, of course, Octoprint somehow didn't save my password. Come on. Okay. Well, the fact that Octoprint is loading up should mean it's working. Okay, maybe now it's logging in. There we go. Yes, mainsail is what we're trying to develop to kind of get around the hardware requirements of Octoprint, because you're running Octoprint and then you're running Clipper on it. Clipper doesn't really need as much power as Octoprint, so if you remove the need of Octoprint, you can run it on a Pi 0, which I got one there. Although one of these little guys, which are those like Chinese, what is it, banana pie, orange pie. You might have more luck with one of these, and they actually have, Ethernet and multiple USB ports. So, another thing to try. Okay. See my screen here? So, connect. Status. So obviously I don't have a config set up yet. I think I have like the default config loaded on it, but obviously nothing's hooked up, nothing's configured. But we do have power and everything seems to be working. So now comes the fun part. Fancy stuff away. Now, in your case, if you're using SKRs or whatever, you would be using JST connections. I am using Molex KK. They are a better connector. If you want to take your SKR and replace all the JST connections with Molex KKs, that would be a good choice, personally. They are cheaper, but like, for example, that Orange Pi, that's like the really cheap, like $12 one, the Orange Pi Zero. It's got some weird Wi-Fi chip that like works only on a full moon. It's very funky. Okay, so we're gonna start with motors, because we got all the Zen motors there. So now I've said this before. With your motors, if you got the OMC motors, motor order for the wiring, don't change it. So don't be mixing and matching colors. Whatever the color is, the order of colors on the terminal, keep it that way when you cut and then extend it or whatever. Yes, the Orange Pi does have Ethernet. So you can, just use Ethernet if you want to. Like, I have tried it, bench testing, but I've never actually run a printer with it. But Octoprint does work, and Clipper will load onto it, but I've never actually done any performance or actual testing with it. So I've never hooked it up to a printer. I was going to test it on V0, but it took too long to come in. By that time, I wasn't going to rip apart my V0 to put it in. So how are we going to do this? So I should have had these motors with the wires going down. So right now you can see they come out the side. In the future, I would have them coming down just for appearance sake, but I don't think that really matters too much. So I'm going to put one of these guys. So let's have this guy come up the middle. Yeah, we'll go there. So I can go there, I can go there. Don't be afraid to zip tie the crap out of everything under here. When everything's cable managed, you're less likely to have it snag on anything. It'll look good. Because who cares how it runs as long as it looks good, right? But if you can do both, you're laughing. Okay, so don't be afraid to mark stuff. So motors is, what's it? Its front left is 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Right? I'm upside down. Yeah, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah, because its front left is 0. Right? Yeah. Three. 1. Davis Run, $20. Thank you, man. I do appreciate it. Thank you. As always, any donations that I receive on stream go either directly into Voron or directly to the stream itself. If you missed out last week, I bought a cam link, so that way I actually have 2 decent cameras now. So I figure these build videos, you know, it's easier to build a printer if you can actually see what the guy is working on. So any donations I do receive either go to Voron for Voron related stuff and components, or to the stream itself for hardware that allows me to stream better. So nothing goes into my pocket, and I do appreciate it. Thank you, man. I know there really isn't much to talk about right now because I'm just cable managing and running wires. So put on some background music, chill out, work on your own printer, or just ask random questions. Either or. So let's see here. So we're going to run these guys right there. Have any of you guys been sponsored? No, we have not. Yeah, we don't take, there's no sponsorship or anything like that. So this guy's going to come to here. Go there. And then from there, they're all going to feed into there. Okay. So I'm going to need one there and there. Actually, where did I put that Allen key? Where did I put my Allen keys? There. Why not? Because we haven't looked into it. It's not something we're actively trying to do. We're, a bunch of guys in their basements. If they reach out to us, want to donate some boards for some testing, like, I don't see why not, but we're not, we're not really looking for it. Wrap this up so it looks okay. Like, this isn't a company, right? So there's no, we don't have a PR department or anything like that. Crosstalk, you know what? Everything is so mashed together in the cable chain. I've never really noticed an issue, honestly. I know back in the day with Cat 5, we were like, oh, that's why, it comes in pre-paired up wires. But then we switched to just using silicone wires and zip chain, tape chain, and now drag chain, and now PTFE wires. And honestly, it hasn't really become an issue. So we don't really, crosstalk I don't think isn't that big of an issue. The OMCs don't come with twisted pair. Like, these guys come just, wires are just loose. Some do, I'm sure, but nothing in here in V2.26 is paired up, and I've never noticed any issues with crosstalk or anything like that. This stuff is awesome in your bottom compartment for sleeving cables, because you can just throw it on however much you need, wherever you need it. go. Yeah, you can get the adhesive square. I can't remember where I got mine. Work or something years ago. Running kind of low on them. But Amazon or wherever. They're super handy because you can just stick them wherever and zip tie stuff to them. Okay, motor time. So where is Z3? 111. 3. So for running your wires into the board, think of it like wiring up your wall socket. You don't want them tight, so you don't want it with the wires going tight into the connector. You do want a little bit of slack in case something gets bumped or tugged. You don't want it ripping the connector off the board. So a nice little loop into the connector is really all you need. Actually, I think these are 22 gauge. Yeah. Okay, let's see. And disadvantage to using a salon DIN rail mount screw terminal for cable management? No. If you want to use one, that's perfectly fine. If you have the room underneath, the bigger your build, the more room you have to play around with. But nothing against it. I've never used one. But if you want to use one, there's no disadvantage to it. check up here. I didn't bring my glasses today, so I gotta kind of get up close here. Crimping tool costs more than an SKR board. I wish I found. Honestly, I love my PA09. It makes crimping terminals, or the little these guys, so much nicer. It's if you do, if you're only building one Voron and you're only ever going to crimp anything once, this cheap, the cheapo AliExpress might be okay, but if you're planning on doing more than one build, invest in a good crimper. Trust me. Okay, no way. So for the different types of Voron, so they're all Core XY printers. So I only have a V0 and a V2 right now. So a V2 or V0, sorry, is I gotta unhook this camera one day. So it's a 250 millimeter cube printer. So this is it. So this is 250 millimeters cubed, Core XY. It'll print at, if you really want, 300 millimeters a second. NEMA 14s. It's got a Raspberry Pi. It's got, it's running Clipper, internal power supply, 32-bit, heated bed that can do ABS. It's got a flex plate, so you can removable print bed. This one's going to get a Dragon, but it's got a V6. You can also take a Mosquito. Yeah, so that's a V0. You got the V2, which is this guy. So the big thing with the V2 is it's Core XY, but you have a flying gantry. So your bed is fixed. So all the way to the printer is down low, and it's your gantry that does all the movement. So I know it's kind of hard to see on this camera angle, but when the printer is running, it's low center of gravity. The V1.8 is basically a really good traditional Core XY, where you have your traditional fixed gantry moving bed. So on a V2, your gantry moves instead of the bed, so it's less moving mass, so it allows you to print faster and more consistently, because it's your gantry that's moving, not your bed. Your bed's fixed. And they're all ABS machines. Like they'll eat ABS all day long. Fully enclosed by design. Okay, where was I at? Oh yeah, terminal time. So go with blue, red, green, black. And with your when you're installing your crimp connections into the terminal block, they should make a little click noise. Sometimes, depending on how good your crimps are and how clean they are, you might have to go in there with, like, say, a small screwdriver or pin and just give them a little push to make sure they're seated. They shouldn't pull out, and when you look at the little window, yeah, no, you can barely see. When you look at the little window, you should see the locking tab firmly in position. So, and then what I will also do is, on the connectors, always write down what it is. So in this case, it's motor 3. There we go. One done. 100 and something other wires to go. 2. Why do I still have the MZ bot sticker? Because it's the MZ bot sticker. Why would I get rid of it? It's classic, man. I'm still waiting for Slice to give me another sticker. I bought 2 dragons to go on 2 printers. And they only gave me 1 sticker. Or mosquito. So I buy 2 mosquitoes. They only give me 1 sticker. So I can only put it on 1 printer. But I have 2 printers with mosquitoes. Oversight. Disappointed. Yes, so why belts instead of lead screws? So one, integrated lead screws, because you really don't want to use a coupler with lead screws. So you don't want NEMA 17 connecting to your lead screw with a coupler. You want integrated. So integrated lead screws with a NEMA 17 are actually, they get pricey pretty quick. And when you need 4 of them, that adds quite a bit to your cost. And they're not as compact as belts. And then also, they're slow. Pretty much everyone who has a Voron V2 runs with like 10 millimeter per second Z hop enabled. So like having a very fast Z movement is one of those things that you don't realize it's a huge thing until you turn Z hop on, and over the course of like a multi-hour print, you save quite a bit of time. Because you can tell any printer to print fast, but the Voron prints and moves so fast that it can print, much more efficiently than a lot of other styles of printer, and crank the acceleration up too, because it's so stable. Mr. Aki, what are you looking for? Are you looking for the DIN rails themselves? Is that what you're having trouble finding? Okay, Monday. Okay, so this isn't even like Z hop speed. There. That's all the way up, all the way down. Yes, DID rails it's an industry standard component. You will see them a lot in pretty much any CNC shop, any place that does industrial electronics. It's a very common item. It's a commercial off the shelf item that's like an industry standard for mounting electronics in any sort of cabinet. So if you walk into any or contact any like reputable electronics vendor or reseller, they'll have DIN rails. It's an ambiguous it's an industry standard item. It's like walking into a grocery store and asking for bread. It's just something they have. Depending on what your standard is in your country, it may be. But if you Google what a DIN rail is, you'll see exactly what it is. It's just a little U-shaped rail. A V2, I would say, is more in the 1200 to 1500 range. It really depends on what size you're building, where you're sourcing your components, and also how badly wherever you are is getting screwed with shipping from Rona-related issues. Yes, you can easily spend 1500, especially if you include tool prices and shipping. But more conservative, especially with the lower BOM of 2.4, is probably around 12 to 1500. Again, really depends on the size though, because certain things get quite expensive on the larger size Vorons, like beds. Yeah, no way, go to vorondesign.com. If you go there, all the plans and whatnot for all the printers, the V1, V2, and V0 are there. And then the Discord itself is, we got 5,000 plus people on there. The community there is large, it's great. Very helpful when it comes to builds, answering questions. There's different channels for all the different printers and other electronic stuff. So if you want info, go to the website and join the Discord. Yeah, Andre is our resident trash panda. If there's a cheap way of doing it, he's figured it out already. Mister, I'm only going to buy 4 Misumi extrusions for my V2.4. Or, what was it, a 2.0 or 2.1? Now it doesn't matter. You can use Chinese extrusions all the way around. Oh yeah, the V1 used to be a lot cheaper. Like if you look at the original V1.0 or V1.5, it was rods and bearings, right? You can buy cheap Chinese rods, cheap Chinese bearings. You could really cheap out on the V1 if you wanted to. But it was a much simpler design, and the V1.8 is all linear rails and whatnot, so it's a better printer, but it's going to cost a bit more. That is unfortunately kind of how things work. The better it is, the more it costs usually. Yeah, like for example, like the V0, when we were doing a lot of the dev work for it, that's why when we're like, oh, it's only a $400 printer, because when a lot of us were buying parts for it, stuff was cheap. And unfortunately now, especially with like Rona and whatnot, prices for a lot of the components have gone up, and a lot of stuff doesn't have the cheap shipping anymore, and shipping has gone up. So yes, you still can do a sub 400 V0, but you are chipping out on a lot of components, where before it was like, yeah, it was just normal parts, maybe a slightly cheaper bed. Yeah, 400 to 600, depending on where you are in the world. If you're skipping out on like a Kinovo heater mat, and you're going with like a Triangle Labs E3D V6 clone, you can get it down probably 500-ish. But it's shipping that's screwing everyone right now, unfortunately, and that's out of our hands. So when we say, oh, it's a $400 printer, that's $400 before shipping, before Rona. So, because before Rona, yeah, if you were fine waiting 3 months, shipping was free on pretty much everything. Like, on this guy, it's got CNA rails, it's got a Triangle Labs hot end, OMC motors, an SKR Mini, Meanwhile power supply. Like, it's not, it's good stuff, but it's not exactly Gucci. Okay, Z motors are wired in. So, let's see. Let's start with, let's do our end stops. So, we got this guy. That's a motor. That's a motor. So this is our this right here is our probe. So we're going to want to get this guy out. So we got our Z mechanical, or Z probe. Now where are our... Oh, don't tell me I lost them. Crud. Ah, don't tell me I lost the labeling. I lost the labeling for the Hall effects. Crud. Okay, what were the Hall effects? They were... What color I got? I got white, gray, orange, brown. White, gray, orange, brown. Oh, okay. That's good. I didn't double them up. Good. Right? Yeah. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So now, I just got to sort these guys out from this mess. Light gray. While getting bees tangled up in there. Get out of there. This originally was not a complete spaghetti's nest, but unfortunately, a year of sitting in the closet has kind of done that. Oh, that's the wrong one. All the spaghetti. Okay. The Magic Studios kit, yeah, that's I don't have one. I can't attest to the quality of it, unfortunately. Again, there are no official sanctioned kits from Voron. There are some sites and groups that do sell parts, but that's we take the stance that if you want to sell a Voron, if you want to open up Mike's Voron shop and sell Vorons, you're free to do it. It's an open source design. You can do whatever you want with it, but you're on your own. If you start selling below quality items and your quality's crap and everyone's complaining, we're gonna stick the finger right at you and be like, yeah, that's all on you. That ain't us. So if you want to, sell Voron parts, it's an open market. But officially, we do not. There's no like, hey, we support this kit. This is the official Voron kit. So we're not against them. We're just saying it's if you buy a kit and the quality's crap, there's nothing we can do. let me catch up on chat here. Ronald, linear rails off alley, nothing wrong with them. I use CNA as the shop on alley that I use. All my Vorons have been with CNA rails, and for the longest time they are the spec, recommended on the parts list supplier. When they first started shipping them, you had to, that's why you see my video I have on my channel where I like completely take them apart. But nowadays you don't really have to. They come pretty clean from the factory, and they're oil, but it's not it's just a rust preventative oil. So when you get your rails, you pretty much only have to soak them in like isopropyl just to clean off any residue, grease them up, and install them. There's really nothing to be worried about anymore with them. Okay, so we're gonna go to about there. So that works. So hopefully I cut these wires long enough. It's gotta go to there. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Get some zip ties. Candé bearings, I've used them. I can't remember what for. I didn't have any issues. I think I used them for like the pillow block bearings on V0. And they came in just fine. Okay, so let's see here. So Z would be. Oh yeah, I definitely cut that one short. Just enough. Here. Any thoughts on squishball feet, and have you experimented with putting the Voron on a paver with memory foam? I've seen that CNC kitchen. My Voron is on the spec feet, the rubber feet, and it's on a bench that I bolted to the wall. I don't really get harmonics that like transfer throughout the house that he was talking about. Like putting it on a paver on the memory foam or whatever he used, it won't do you any wrong. And depending on what you normally have your printer sitting on, it'll be just fine. Is it something I wholly recommend and you should do this right now? Not really. If it's annoying you, it's fine. Do it. But if not, it kind of overkill. So. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, I need the Taco Raven pull-up. Hardware. Taco Raven. Is that what I want? No, I don't want up that one. There we go. Taco Raven. Because all of the lettering and whatnot is on the bottom because we didn't have room on the top. So there's the pinouts and what goes where on a taco. So end stops is I need the outer two, it looks like, for Z. Okay. Does the Raven board run Marlin too, or is it strictly used for Clipper? It is strictly for Clipper. Now, theoretically, the MCU is supported by, I think you could port Duet to it if you really wanted to. And I don't know if current Marlin will run on it. But it was designed from the ground up to be a Clipper board. So it's the firmware and everything for it is Clipper. It doesn't function standalone at all. You need a Raspberry Pi or equivalent plugged into it running Clipper. Okay, so now I need a 3-prong. And this is Z. Next, we'll do our PL08, our inductive probe. So obviously, these aren't the color of the wires that the probe uses. That's why when you're wiring up stuff, make a cheat sheet. Yeah, this is for 2.1, but I've been using the same colors. Because the last thing you want to do is have to bust out the multimeter and start tracing wires and going, what the hell did I wire up where and what? Trust me, I've done it. Gets annoying real quick. Now, one thing we did on the taco, I'm plugging it directly into the port. When we design the board, it automatically has the BAT 85 diode or whatever the equivalent is. So you can plug the probe right into the board. You don't need the separate diode or whatever. So that's just one of the little things that it does. Why Clipper instead? Because Clipper is its own firmware. So Clipper allows you to do some things that Duet and Marlin can't do. It allows for a much higher step rate because you are offloading all the actual computation that your board normally does directly to the Raspberry Pi. So your controller board is only carrying out the instructions. So the motion planner on Clipper, some people argue, is the best. I think it's based off the Smoothie one, but don't quote me. But basically, Clipper allows you to have a lot more power and control over your printer, and it's a lot easier too to set up. Like it's just a straight up config file. So all you have to do to update any setting in your printer is literally open up a text editor, change the line, hit save, and press a restart button, and boom, you're good. So that's why it runs Clipper for 32-bit. Now, and also the whole 8-bit versus 32-bit. 32-bit MCUs are cheaper. The actual chip is cheaper than an 8-bit. So the reason you see a lot of 32-bit now, a lot of printers don't really need it, is simply because it's cheaper to manufacture. So that's why. So let me see here. So what? Did I save it? I did not save it. I gotta pull up something here. Okay, let's see. So ground is on. Oh, great. So I wrote down what the color means, but I didn't write down what it actually does. Let me grab another probe. There we go. Okay. Oh, I got a message here. Okay, so I need the ground, which on this guy is black, which is black. Okay, so okay. And then the 12 volt, which is brown, which is white. Which I'm hoping both these probes are the same color code. Otherwise I'm going to have a sparky spark. Again. And then blue, which is the SIG is that. Okay, so we're good there. And that is also Z. So I'm kind of paranoid here. I'm tempted to flip this guy over because I have the probe wired up the same way. Yeah. Power there. Because I know I've shorted one of these guys out before. Okay, plug it. Good, nothing behind. Okay, if you ever want to see what's under an old Voron, okay, let's see. So I got. Ooh, okay. Why are those backwards? Unless we wired that one up different. Let me check. No, I don't want to lose that. Yeah, people talking about how fast you can go with like 32-bit versus 8-bit. We're already at the point where printers can outrun the hot ends. We were at that point years ago. So being able to go even faster is kind of, I wouldn't say it's a moot point, but it's kind of a moot point because we're already way outrunning the hot end. Like, you can only extrude plastic so fast. So what you're getting now with the better MCUs and whatnot is just the ability to have more creature comforts on your printer. Shoot. I want to make sure I got this right. I really don't want to blow up one of these probes because I've done it before. Yeah, it's got to be right. It's got to be right. Because we got... Yeah, it's got to be right. Okay. Now we'll find out if it goes spark. Would be the first time. So yeah. So, I know it's kind of hard to see. Let's see here. Just for some history here. This was the cheap way of doing a Voron back in the day, of the V2. So, this is a duet with the ramps expander board with a bridge between the two. So instead of a duet with a DuX, this is a duet with, a custom expander with two 2208 drivers. And this was a Chinese duet. So this is how you did a V2 on the cheap before Clipper was a thing. So this is like pretty much unchanged for the past 2 years. And it's mounted to an aluminum plate because I'm hardcore like that. Yeah, I'll plug it in later. But that was that's how it was for the first couple. Yeah, Andre, that's what I was worried about. It's just the order of the wires. The red, brown, blue. According to what I've been shown is correct on the Taco. It's different on the expander on the Duet. So I just really wanted to make sure, because I've shorted these before. I wired them up wrong, and you fry the probe before you fry the board. So I'll just turn it on, and if I see sparks, I'll know something's wrong at that point. But until then, I think we're okay. So, nacho hat. That's one thing I never did, was a nacho hat. Okay, so now I gotta wire up the Hall effect. Which means I gotta open up the layout on that one. Okay, so right up there. All the extra wire. Well, not the cheap way, Mundane. So back in the early days, so if you go look up V2 Interlude. It's a video RCF did On that was like the teaser for the V2 basically. But back then, before Clipper, you had two ways of building a Voron. You either ran a ramps with a hacked Marlin code, and you had the ramps basically slave to another ramps. So you had another ramp slave to one ramps to give you an extra 2 drivers, because there are enough pinouts to actually run 7 drivers on a ramps. It's just the board, or on a Arduino Mega, it's just the board itself doesn't support it. So you have to basically add more pinouts to allow you to hook up another stepper. But at that point, you are hard limited to an 8-bit MCU. So like, you literally couldn't run your V2 at more than, I think it was like 100 millimeters a second, and you'd start skipping steps. So that kind of neuters your Voron. So the option was to go up to a duet if you actually wanted to push the speeds of your printer. And so you had to go to a duet plus a duex because you needed 7 drivers. So then we came up with the in-between cheap option, which was a Chinese duet, or the Fuet, and then you had a custom ramps expander board that was originally designed for the ramps. Instead of having 2 ramps slaved together, you would just have the ramps and the expander board. And Andre figured out you can bridge it to the duet and do a custom firmware for RepRap firmware, which is now supported. And you could run duet on it that way. So it would basically be able to run duet RepRap firmware and all the speeds that it allows for the cost of an actual, just a legit duet. And you would have a clone duet and the custom expander. And then Clipper came out and we can just, strap 2 ramps together and get the same speeds, or actually faster speeds. So duet kind of fell off at that point. But the only reason this guy is still running duet is because I haven't had any issues, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this guy is still running literally the OG configs from V2.0 that I've just kind of tweaked along the way to make them work with changed parameters and whatnot. But the actual configuration itself is from 2.0 days. It's old. So I could swap it to Clipper because duet does work with Clipper now. The MCU is supported, but that's I just haven't gotten around to doing it. Okay, I gotta look up the wiring on the Hall effect now. I gotta find out what the pinout is. Top? Does the top say it? No, that's the top. J1. Okay, J1. What does J1 tell me? Gerbers? No. KiCad. No. Shoot, what is the pinout on the Hall effect? I used to know it. Where is it at? There it is. Okay, there it is. Download. There we go. That's what I need. So J1 is ground, and J4 is 5 volts. So it's actually going to get 3 volts. So we'll go with Y here. So what is gray? So we need white. White is gray. White is J1, which is ground, which will go for Y. So which one's ground? Reference that. Is the far one. It's the closest. Okay. So that's ground. And then Y sig is 3, which is gray. Okay. Yeah, Y sig. Okay. Why aren't you locking into position? Come on. Where's my little pin? Too big. No. I always misplace it. I have a little screwdriver that I use for pushing in pins that don't want to go in, and I always misplace it. There we go. Okay, so that's Y. No, I lost my marker. That's where I spent half this stream looking for stuff that I lost. That I put down, that I can't remember where I put it. Should it roll under here? No. I don't know where my marker went. Oh well. Well, that's why. Now I need to feed this guy some voltage, which is J4, which is brown. Which is the middle one. Right? Yeah. And then, which is X, which is 2. Which is orange. There we go. Okay. The SKR Mini E3. Long story short, there's an issue with one of the little SMD diodes or whatever. It causes, because Clipper is very particular about timings, it's asking the MCU something about temperature constantly, or faster than Marlin or whatever does it. So if you look at your temperature graph, you'll see it'll be very... it won't be smooth. It'll just jump flat for a bit, jump flat for a bit. And that's just because of the way Clipper is asking for stuff. Marlin actually just fakes it and kind of blends it into a smooth thing. Whereas Clipper is like, give me the correct data right now. So you basically just have to bridge it, I believe. It is an easy fix. And it's functionally, it works just fine. Like I'm running a Mini E3 in my V0 just fine. It's just my temperature graph just kind of looks a little wonky, but it's functionally correct. And I think it's off by a few degrees too. Just wondering how you connected the BAT85 diode. So with the Taco Raven, because we knew we were going to be using a probe, we designed the board to have that function built right into the board. So you just plug in the wires to the board and it's built in. This guy has the same thing with the Duet with the expander. We designed the expander to have the diode built in for voltage regulation or whatever the BAT85 does. So you don't need to add a separate BAT85 because it's on the board. Now this is a thing for Taco only, obviously. So, Okay, so I believe that is correct there. I wish I knew where... Oh, I put my marker in my pocket. That's where it is. Okay. Let me label these before I forget. So this is X. And this is Y. There we go. Okay, marker's in my pocket. I am using the PL08. I haven't had issues. I am still running the same $3 PL08 in this guy for the past like 2 years or whatever. It's an easy swap. If I start running into issues with it, I'll just swap over to the Omron probe. I'm very, if it's working just fine, I won't bother upgrading it. Okay, a little bit of cable management. Actually get a longer one. Yeah, you don't want to blow up your diode. I've done it before, wiring one up backwards. They get all sparky internally, and so when you're looking for a little red light and you start getting orange sparks, you know you done goofed. So that's how you know you wired up your diode backwards. Okay, so now we need some thermistors, which are purple. So instead of untangling this, I'm just going to cut it because I really don't need this much. As you can see, I ran a little bit extra wire than I really needed. But it's easier to cut it off than to add on to it. So I can live with that. Huh? Shouldn't have ended. Still live. Hit refresh at max. That might work. I'm still here. Why not use Hall effect for a Z-axis? It is not for like you get the mechanical Z switch. You need to probe it off a. It just wouldn't work. I believe there's some. I think it's a temperature issue. Magnet, because it uses a magnet, it's more susceptible to drift. Yeah, it's saying on YouTube. I got the green light on YouTube, so I'm still here. Okay, so I only have this guy to go to T0. Yeah, that's true. Hall effect needs a magnet, and you can't put a magnet. Now, You could, yeah. People have looked into it for using it for like replacing the PL08 and using a magnet on the bed and like the four corners, and yeah, that's Hall effect is good for XY. It's not even needed for there. It's just a Gucci thing. Actually, this might be the probe I blew up. I don't know. So with thermistors, same as your heater, there is no positive and negative. So you don't got to worry about that. Go. So this is hot end. Do you need to use any specific wires for your heater? I use 20 gauge. In this case, silicone. But the new spec is PTFE insulated wires instead of silicone. So go with that. But 20 gauge wire is really all you need for your heater, especially at 24 volts. Okay, so T0. I don't know if T0 is supposed to be bed or hot end, but it's hot end for now. I can easily switch that. Okay, so now we need, let's do our motors. So we got extruders and an X and Y. Okay, so there's one motor. Oh my God, spaghetti. Mom, spaghetti. Max, are you back, or does the stream like really crap out for you? It's redacted. Okay, so now what do we got left? We got, these are fans, right? Fans and heater. Okay, so the heater bed is going to be the 24 or the 20 gauge. So let's see here, which is the thick stuff? That's 20 gauge, so that's one. And that's two. Okay. So there's our heater. And then these are the fans. Why did I cut these so long? Oh my God. All the extra wire. Okay, so let me just do one quick wrap of that. Yes. The 3 volts is to the driver thinky think part itself, basically. The motors still need their 12 or 24 volts to function. So for the issue with 12 volts, it's basically an issue down to torque, I believe. Trying to ask them to do the super fast moves that we're all used to with Vorons at 12 volts, I believe it runs into issues. So you do want to try and feed it more. The more, the better. Oop, don't pull that out. Does Panda take leftover wire? My garbage bin is full, so he might be coming around at some point to pick it up. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm kind of worried about with the Taco is the fact that it does use 2130s, and they're really not the greatest driver. They just lack the torque and the ability to put out as much juice as some of the motors want. I know some guys with Tacos, RCF had one. He took it out because he was having issues with it just not having the juice. So I'm hoping I won't run into issues here. But as I've said before, I'm fully prepared to rip it out and replace it if required. I really hope I don't have to, but if I gotta, I gotta. I won't worry about it. I just want to actually use it for something first. Yeah, the only reason 12 volt is still common with printers is legacy. Back in the day, everyone used ATX power supplies because they were very common, or 12 volt LED power supplies. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm just hoping I didn't screw up any of my drivers with the having to solder on those little itty bitty resistors. Oh god, hats. Taco started as a hat. It doesn't need more hats. Okay, so which one is this? This is the extruder. So we'll do X. So is X the A motor or the B motor? I can't remember. Is X A or B? Somebody tell me before I start cutting wires. Yes, there is work in progress for a 2209 Taco. Again, though, you're going to have to like find somebody to build the board because nobody has a fab shop to build them, at least on our Discord. I know some people have reflow ovens and whatnot, and but nobody has a pick and place yet. Plus, it's a complicated board. There's a lot of little stuff on it. A equals X, B equals Y. Okay, and A is the right motor. Right? I hate doing this upside down. So AB, because it's backwards, so it's BA. So B is Y, A is X. Oh my god. Hand solder a taco. If you hand solder a taco, you are a hero. A is the one with the chains. Okay, thank you. I hate working upside down. Which is motor 0. Okay. The loose rod going flying. I thought we had I can't remember. At some point, I think there was a fix for it before we switched to using a 20-tooth gear or something. I can't remember though. Actually, now that I think about it, let me try something. Because I have it upside down right now. I just want to try something. See if this works. Let me grab an M5 dowel. Because mine had an M5 dowel in it and it went flying. So let me grab an M5 dowel. See if my little ghetto fix here works. So that's a steel screw. No, that ain't gonna hold. I want to see if you put a magnet on the screw, if it would transfer the magnetism through the screw into the rod, and if that would hold it in place. Nope. There goes my idea. Oh, wait, what? I missed something. Happy Dog, Nurq. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad you could join us tonight. I know this is a pretty, other than the Sparky Sparks right at the beginning, this is a pretty uneventful stream, but it's wiring. It's the part everyone hates. It's got to get done. Yes, 2.4 manual soon. It's being worked on. It's in a near completed state, I will say, functionally, but it's still going through like checking and whatnot, so it is soon. I know it's a joke with Voron and soon, but the 2.4 manual is soon. It wasn't an almost fire. It was an illuminating experience. Okay. I was demonstrating the improper way of checking voltages, and then the proper way of replacing a fuse. So it was a learning experience and quite illuminating. No blue smoke. Oh yeah, that's the way of doing it. You put a little notch in the side of the pin, so it's not actually holding it, and then you just put the set screw in a little bit so that it's captive in the notch. So if you have like your set screws in and then you got a notch, the pin can just kind of move up and down, but it won't be able to fall out. So well, the mundane. The point of the taco is not to succeed. It's just kind of a development funsy thing. Like, and also the GTR is two boards. It's not one board. It's two boards. It's one board plus an expansion. Whereas this is an all-in-one board. But yeah, it's not. Again, we're not selling anything. It's just developing for fun. So, okay. So what are my motor wires here? Did I write these down? Please tell me I wrote these down. I did not write these down. Okay. What color are my wires? Because they should be the same. Okay, brown is black. So brown is black. Green is green. Okay, that's good and easy. Okay, so green is green, red is red. Oh, these ones, yeah, these are the, that's why I'm not using these ones. These ones are garbage. Why won't you click into place? There we go. Go into your home. There we go. And then, what's yellow? Just making sure yellow is blue, which is the last one. Okay. There we go. And that is that. Yay. There we go. Oh, Max. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I am amazing. Sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much. I almost missed that one. I'm too busy trying to fit a wire into a hole. Okay, so this is the other motor. So that's Y. Right there. Yeah, I know. I'm not like the Twitch streamers. I don't have no little fancy overlay or whatever pop up whenever somebody donates. So I gotta remember to look at the screen. I almost missed that one. And Nurcuse. I just saw the hint of blue at the bottom. I don't know how those guys do that all day. Okay, let me put a better camera angle on. Okay, so these are the crappy kit. I'm going to put this one away because this one's crimping like garbage. Get the good one. You know, I think they're exactly the same. It's probably just a different batch. The notepad throw and landing. Why? What happened with the notepad throw and landing, Andre? Yeah, they don't have a job. That is their job. I work with a guy who apparently he was like a Counter-Strike Go streamer back in the day. And he was telling me he cleared like 6 figures one year doing that. And I'm like, how the hell? And he's like, I just sat there all day. I fell into a niche. And he just made a killing. And then he gave up for like 3 months. And he was done. That was it. He could never get back into it. He never got anywhere near what it was. Like, his whole fan base had moved on. But he's like, yeah, I was on the computer for like 18 hours a day. And I'm like, no. Paid for the down payment for his house, though. It's that snow of depression. But it is always snowing. Donate strobe lights. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. What time is it anyways? Oh, it's 11. Normally I call it at 11. So that makes it a 3-hour stream, but I'm going to keep going at least until this is wired up. And then I'm not going to get any movement out of this. I'm not going to push to try and move anything tonight. But I will try and do a power on. At least make sure everything's reading and I'm not having any sparky sparks. So I will do that on stream. I will get it at least powered back on. And hopefully no sparky sparks. Well, at the end of the day, are we all just giving money to other people? That's how capitalism works, right? You give me money, and then I pay taxes, which goes to other people, and they get money, and it's all a big pile of money. Like, I spent some time in the army, and I got paid with taxpayers' money, but then I was taxed on the money that I was being paid from tax dollars, so I was paying myself. How does what? Cowboy 1 $9.99. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream. We are almost done here, hopefully. As I say that, as this will probably go on for another hour, but keep on trucking. What's the little black cube with red lettering by the RPI? That is the magic little black box. It's a buck converter. It's actually the spec buck converter, I believe, for the V0 that I never actually used in my V0. So I'm using it in this guy instead of a separate power supply. So, yeah. Is that an issue, Top? Yeah, I've got like a billion of these things because they were free. And it's a t-shirt. So. Tax dollars at work. Canadian tax dollars at work. Okay, extruder motor time. And yes, I throw the little nubbins, I strip off these and onto the ground. I just sweep them up later. And Dane, 40 rubles. Thank you. Appreciate it. I have no idea what the conversion rate is, but thank you. Now, if only it was rupees, I could smash some pots for those. 50 cents. Mazel tov, or not Mazel tov. What's the Russian one? Molotov? No, not Molotov. I don't know. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Thank you for hanging out. Yeah, what is the Russian greeting? Voshka Kalashnikov. Putin on a bear. I don't know. Spasibo? Spasibo. Spasibo? Russian. I know suka bliet. That's it. Suka bliet. And cheeky breeky. And whatever Boris says on Life of Boris. Okay, so now this motor. I took a picture of, so I need to find the picture I took of which wire goes where. Because if you remember on the stream, I took a picture of it for this reason. There we go. So black is gray. Black is gray. And black was brown. So we'll go there. Ooh, almost put it the wrong way. There we go, this way. So black is gray. And then we have orange. And then yellow. And then blue. There we go. So that is that. Yes, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Or Animal Farm. Okay, so I got extruder, Y, and EX. Okay. So we've got our motors wired up. So now we need to run some fans. So we got to bring this all the way to here, and then that. So some more of the good stuff. Yes, core XY, there is, because the motors work against each other to move in your direction, each motor, there is no X and Y motor. So it's referred to as A and B, because they both actually have to work against each other together, and one working and the other not working to get your motion out of a core XY system. So there is no X and Y motor, but pretty much all controller boards are labeled for X and Y motors. So. And after I get this all wired up, I'll post some pictures on the Discord on the build in progress section, just so you can see. Okay, so now we need fans. So fan 0, fan 1. So what do we have for fans? So I got heat seeker fan is green and black. Right about there. I have so much extra wire. Oh well. Triple core XY gantry. If you were building an IDEX core XY, you would have to have multiple gantries, so. Okay, so fan is the negative, so it'd be positive towards me. So I need 2. And green is positive, right? Yeah. What are we talking about, V3? V3 don't exist. Right? Wrong? Maybe? I don't know. RCF just dropping hints. Do they mean anything? Who knows? They could mean something. They could mean nothing. Who knows? So fan negative positive is out this way, which is correct. There we go. Yeah, going back to the basics. Bust out your linear rods and your Meltzy boards, guys. Oh, it would help if I stripped the wires before I crimped anything on them. Oh god, the BL Touch. That was the biggest waste of $50 ever, in my opinion. That was I think I used it in my V1 for a week before just ripping it out. Nothing but trouble. And it was a legit one too. That's why it was $50. Gotta pay that Canada tax. So red is positive. So okay. A bit more of the good stuff. The J head. Back in my day. Wrong way. Groove mount needs to die. Trying to use a slot as a rigid mounting point on anything is just dumb. Like it's groove mount is horribly outdated. Like whoever thought of that and decided to keep rolling with it. Like I understand, oh, it's because it's printed. But like we're mounting mosquitoes and dragons on printed parts and they're rock solid. That and E3D's refusal to make a hot end where your heater block isn't only held on by your heat break, which is structural, but it needs to be thin, but it needs to be structural. And it spins. Like, come on, guys. Some guys in Florida figured out a better way. Why don't you guys do it? Heater 0. Okay. So put the bed in. Well, yeah, I understand it. It's cheap to manufacture, but they're charging, you know, an E3D V6 is like $100 up here in Canada for like a legit full metal one. Like I understand they did it because, you know, it's easy to manufacture, but I could understand that, you know, when you're making it in your garage. Now that you're the largest company of like hot ends, come up with some good shit, guys. Come on, you got the R&D. I mean, China's got the Dragon now. I'd be hard pressed to name one thing a standard V6 does better than a Dragon. Actually, do these fit in this guy? I've never seen. Oh my god, we used really little connectors on this. Oh my, this ain't gonna fit. Shit. Why do we use such little connectors on this? Who designed this? Okay. Yeah, those connectors are definitely a mistake. They are way too small. Way, way too small. You can see the fancy Ethernet cable I'm now running to my router in the family room, so I don't have to deal with Wi-Fi issues. I do plan on putting it up in the ceiling at some point, but not at this point. Oh my god, these connectors suck. I feel like I'm going to break it just touching it. Oh god, the Hemera. They tried that already with the Titan. All it is a Titan, or whatever the all-in-one they previously had, with a geared extruder. That's all it is. It is absolutely nothing spectacular. And then also, if you notice, now you have your heatsink is having to your heatsink, which if you've been paying attention, already has issues keeping the hot end cool and fighting heat creep issues, is now also having to keep the motor cool, because the motor, which touch your pancake stepper on an afterburner, it gets warm, it gets toasty. So now you're fighting heat coming from your heater, and you're also fighting heat coming from the motor. And for what? A slightly shorter filament path, and it's fat on the x-axis too. I like the way it's laid out, and then you have to strap a cooler on it. There's no part cooler, so you have to print some god-awful Batwing design thing off Thingiverse. It is like, I do not get that thing at all. Like, I will never buy a Hemera. It makes 0 sense to me. I can't get this in. Oh yeah, and all the gears crack on it constantly. People are having gear cracking issues. Now, I won't state I am the be-all, end-all when it comes to manufacturing, but in my years of working with metal, anytime you have metal on metal contact, you need a lubricant of some sort, or dissimilar metals. Otherwise you're going to get wear and abrasion and breakdowns. And they tell you specifically not to use any lubricant on the gears. And I believe they're not dissimilar metals. They are both hardened or whatever. So they're eventually one of them's going to give or wear down. Is this seriously not working? What am I missing here? I might have to put the wires straight into this, because I cannot get this to fit in here. Let's see. And this is the smallest ones that I got. Yeah, I'm going to have to put the wires directly in. I can't put these little guys in, which really sucks, because I hate putting unconstrained wires into things. Okay, the white fits. Maybe the white will fit. We'll see. Yes, it's because of this. Yeah, the melty. As RCF's saying there, the issue with the Mosquito is the heater block is fat. It's big on the x-axis, so because of that, heat manages to push out the sides a lot more than the other designs, and we get some melty ducts. Now we recently, we did redesign them a little bit recently on the mainline release, so it may not be still affecting people as much as it used to, but it was an issue. Okay, let's try this guy. Now I got one size smaller of these ferrules I want to use, because you really shouldn't put wires directly into something, because they will eventually work themselves out. So you do want to crimp them onto an actual fitting. There we go. Okay, we're good. like I'm going to trim these. And I will find those when those get embedded in the bottom of my foot. There we go. Okay. Cowboy 1 manual is being worked on. It's almost, I don't want to say it's almost done, but it's in a near usable state. So soon. Like, it is in a soon state. I know we always say soon, but soon. Like, I don't know. Like, it will be out soon. Don't worry. Okay. That's everything hooked up. So, let's take a looky-loo here. I'm going to run that underneath. So I'll do some cable management later. I don't have the fans hooked up for the taco, but I think I have enough here that I can power it on again, and hope we don't get a sparky spark. And then if we don't, I'm just going to clean up the wires a little bit, clean up, and call it a night, because this has been a while. So let me pull this back up. There we go. .4 sock emoji, yeah. Okay, so plug it in. Finger on the switch just in case. And got no spark. I got one light for my Z endstop, so that might be backwards. Let me grab a pin. So let me see if this light turns off. Woo! Okay, my Z endstop works. One thing works, guys. We're done. Hall effect. Let me make sure my Hall effect is lining up. Grab a magnet. So I know that you can't really see here, but let me see here. Okay, let me spin this around. I can't really. I got power shit. I'll go through it all next week. But the Hall effect end stops when you bring a magnet next to them. They have a little LED that lights up. So I'm just bringing a magnet next to them just to make sure they are lighting up. Yeah, man. Why am I doing this the hard way? Hold it on a pin. There we go. And they only work one way. This is why with the Hall effect you can't install the magnets Okay, so there we go. That LED's working. That one's lighting up. Y, there we go. Perfect. So all my 3 end stops are registering. X, Y, Z, and Z. Or actually, no. Where is... I need metal. Metal. Probe is lit up. There we go. Okay, probe is lighting up when I... Okay, good. So the probe is lighting up when I hit it with the metal. So we're good there. Okay. Let me pull up chat. Yeah, I do not smell burning. Connect. Woo, we're connected. Now we're reading 0 for a tool. I should be getting some temperature, I believe, right? So we're getting nothing for temperature. That is a little disconcerting. But let's see here. Status. No mesh min, bed mesh. Yeah, it's probably yeah, printer is halted, so yeah, something's... I don't have a bed mesh or anything. So I think we're okay there. RSA, yeah, so it's conking out right away. That's why I'm not seeing a temperature, I think. But it is detecting there is something there, maybe. So Kit, I believe the vector file is on the GitHub. Or at least one of the a higher res version of it is. So it is there. Okay. So we got no sparky sparks. We got, at least from a cursory glance, stuff is working. Nothing feels stupid hot. So I think we're okay. So at this point, I'm going to start winding down. Turn the power off. Do a little bit more cable management and clean up, and that will be it. So I'm going to leave it open while I clean up like I always do for like another 15-20 minutes, maybe till midnight, we'll see. While I get ready to head out. So let's see here. So open floor. Anyone has any questions about their build or anything? Now is a perfect time. And I will take pictures and post them up on the Discord. So if anyone would like to see how it looks in a little bit better quality. Oh, that's garbage. Where's my good snips? There we go. You can spot weld with the multimeter. I lost the tip of the red one. Is a little toasty, and the terminal is a little toasty as well. But that's why stuff has fuses. Actually, part of me can't wait to see what the watch the pod just to watch that part. I was not expecting that. I have checked it multiple, like I have checked PSUs in the past. I just completely had a brain fart there and measured the wrong terminal. I know you're not supposed to measure the input voltage. I know that. But that was just, you know, it's been a long day. Spent the morning peeling up bricks, redoing the patio outside. So next week, hopefully, I'll have the bed mounted. I probably won't cover that because I'm still waiting on a new PEI sheet and flex plate to come in from Energetic. So I'm just gonna throw the bed on as is, and go wire it up, and hopefully I might do a function test just to make sure it's moving, or I might do it all live, and we'll just troubleshoot in live, build the actual, hey, it's up and running now. What do I do now? Part of the build. As we'll go through the whole procedure and how to properly set up a Voron for the first time, which I've never actually looked at that part in the manual, so it'll be interesting. I've never set up a Voron on Clipper either, so this is the first time doing that. So, should be a fun time. Kajink, thank you, appreciate it, man. We try to be as like friendly and welcoming as possible, especially for new builds, because one of the ethos, I don't know, mantras, whatever, is Voron we're trying to make it, you know, the best, most well documented rep wrap there is. We don't want it like how when you go to build a hypercube and you have to go on Thingiverse, and then you have to go on this GitHub, and then you have to go on this guy's site, because if you want to build this version, you need these parts, but don't use these parts, use these parts, but these parts conflict with these parts, so you got to use this part, and there's 20 different guides, and there's a million different videos, and we try to make things, you know, I want to build a good printer. This is how you build a good printer. The end. We want to make it as simple and efficient and fun as possible. That's why we have, 150 page manuals on how to build a V0. I don't know what the V2 manual is up to page wise, but it's a big one. So yeah, Cowboy, I'll probably do live. We didn't have any Sparky Sparks, so everything should function. I probably will go through and get a config on it, and maybe just do a motor pulse just to make sure stuff is functioning. But in terms of it, this thing will print live on a stream. Like I won't print anything on here until it's live streamed, because I'm literally gonna. The plan is, once this thing homes and does a good bed mesh, I'm going to do like one of those, where you print like the first layer of a bunch of cubes just to make sure the bed is okay. I'm going to do an extruder calibrate, and then I'm going to run something that's like 300 millimeters tall right off the bat. That is going to be the plan. I have no idea how that's going to go, because I won't have any profile tune for it or anything, but I am literally going to go from 0 to 100 on this thing right away. So, should be fun. Is a printer I'm working on 350. No, this is an oddball size. If you were to look up what the size of a 300 by 300 by 400 V 1.5 is, that's how big this guy is. So it is actually a 330 by 330 by I think 410 or 390, something like that, V2. So it's kind of an oddball size. I am reusing my bed though from when it was a V1, so it's only a 300 by 300 bed, because I'm not going to go hunting for a 13-inch bed and a 13-inch flex plate, because good God, that's going to be annoying. So I'm just going to live with a 300 by 300 bed. I'll just have more room for a, I don't know, purge bucket or something. that ain't done, so I'm going to leave that there, that one there. I got to put some more on that guy. Yeah, I use this wrap. The wrap you can just wrap around on everything. Just for pairing up wires, making sure everything's protected. And for looks, it makes everything look good too. Can you do a V0 build guide after this one? I know people have been asking for V0. The thing is, I already have my V0 built, and I don't have plans for a second one because for me, it's a backup printer. I really am not using it that much, especially right now with I'm just busy with real life stuff. Well, this is real life too, but I would have to basically take it apart and rebuild it on stream, which I might do, because it is built with some pre-release parts to it. So there are some upgrades I could do part-wise, a little bit better wiring. I do have to replace the hot end. I do have a Dragon for it. Right now it's running a V6, threaded V6. And so I may swap that. I do plan on swapping that out to a Dragon. So I might just do live stream swapping out the hot end, the whole hot end assembly. Because the build itself is actually a pretty easy build. It's just order of operations. As long as you put the nuts in the right spot, and the parts themselves are pretty simple. Like it's not a super complicated build. You just have to follow the procedure. And then the only real complicated part, in my opinion, on the V0 is making sure the nuts are in the correct spots before you start building it, because they're all pre-assembly nuts for the frame. Following the order of operations, and just wiring, because it's so small, you really have to be very neat with your wiring. So I might just do just a hot end, maybe do a pocket watch assembly video, because I do have an old version of the pocket watch. I might upgrade that. But yeah, so right now it's wrap this guy up. I have a little i3 that I got to wire up too, and then we'll move on from there. But I do plan on doing the keeping with the Saturday night streams for the foreseeable future. So even once this guy's built, I'll try and find something to do a stream on every Saturday night, just because regardless of what I'm talking about, I know people have questions about other things, and just having live help is appreciated. I know people like it, and it helps people. So I know this. So with the skirt on, how would one move a 350 size? You pick it up. This is a 250. You just pick it up. You can grab it from the top. The skirts themselves are actually pretty strong. So as long as you're not pulling it on an angle, it does have handles in the front. But depending on how big your house is, you might not even have room to fit it through a doorway. So I would not, personally, I think a 300 millimeter is the optimal size for a V2. 350, if you really need the space, like if you do cosplay and you print, you need to print helmets in one piece and whatnot. In that case, yeah. But I would not build a 350 unless you really had to build a 350. 300 is, in my opinion, the best go-to size, simply for the fact that 12 by 12 inch is a common bed size. So you can find beds easily, heaters easily, PI easily. It's a lot of stuff's designed to fit in a bed that size. So yeah, I wouldn't build a 350 unless you really had to. Yeah, 350 short boy. I know one of the guys who does PIF has a bunch of Vorons, two of them I think, that are like 300 by 300 by like 200. Because if you're doing PIF, you don't print higher than 60 or 80 millimeters or something like that, not high. So if you're just, the machine's going to do one thing all day long, yeah, you might as well keep it short and squat, because the bigger the printer is, the harder it is to keep that chamber heated. You got to remember that. So yeah, that's why 300 by 300 is a nominal size. So. Okay. So I'm going to leave that that wire there, that is good enough. That one's kind of shit. Let me redo this one. And actually, I'm going to have to do a little searching here because this guy is an oddball size. The skirts themselves don't fit. So, like you can see here, I printed the skirts for 300. And as you can see, I have a little bit of a gap here. So, let me go back to this camera. Yeah, so there's a bit of a gap here, because it's an oddball size. So. Well, I'll probably just, make a temporary go-to piece. So we'll see. Yeah, cameras are nice. That was if you watch some of my older streams, it's quite bad in my opinion. Like at first I just had the C920 going directly into a laptop, which went straight to YouTube, and then I started using OBS on that laptop, and I used the C920, which is this guy, the close-up cam, and an old Microsoft Life cam I had, and that worked, but the thing was the laptop was like garbage. It's an ancient, like 10-year-old ThinkPad with a first gen i5, so it could only do 720p, low bit rate, and it was cranked at 100. So then I actually got my old desktop that we use in the living room for a streaming PC. I threw my old GTX 1060 in it, which it's an ancient computer as well. It has a quad core. And the 1060 allows the 1060 to do all the encoding. So now it's all hardware encoding. So now everything's been offloaded from the CPU, so it doesn't matter as much. So now I got the C920 doing the close-up. I bought a camcorder. So this is a Vixia HR. Yeah. So now I got an Elgato cam link, which is the USB 3 thing. A camcorder, which I know it's nowhere near as good as good glass like a Canon or a Sony DSLR that that's what the streamers use, but those are also like $600 Canadian, where this was like $200 at Costco, and I got a 90-day warranty that I could just return at any point if I don't like it. So and then I got a mic now to an actual proper microphone. So I do have a little bit of production quality here, and the only reason I did that is because I know being able to switch between cameras when I'm building stuff helps people a lot. So that's why I spent the time and invested in it. And then I also built the little stream deck. This is what I use to change cameras. So, yeah, this thing, super helpful. So much better than finding your mouse, finding where the icon is. I gotta change it. So. Can you buy an SKR Mini compatible LCD? So the problem with the SKR Mini, it only has two hookups. Hookup for the original Ender 3 board and a TFT display, which unfortunately the TFT display does not work with Clipper. And the Ender 3 board, why would you go hunt that thing down and use it on a V0? So long story short, the only real option is to use a separate MCU. So you could use like an Arduino Nano with a bridge to let me find it. I have a bunch of those somewhere. Oh, they're there. So yeah. So the ways of doing a screen on the V0, you can build the Nano display, which this is a pre-current revision one, so this is an outdated one. Or you can get this little bridge board, which I believe they're on one of the GitHubs. But you build this, and all it is some headers, which are like just the DuPont headers. And then you get an Arduino Nano. That goes to the board. And then you have hookups that hook it up to a standard 12864 rep display. So this would allow you to hook up any screen to a Nano. Yes, Zach. There's a video on my channel on how to build one of these. It's very simple. It's a Arduino Pro Micro, I think it is. Yeah, it's literally printed parts, an Arduino Pro Micro, some wire, and 8 Cherry MX switches, which you don't even need real cherries. You can just get whatever. It just has to be a Cherry style switch. But there is a video on my channel on how to make one. Does Mainsail support something like Octodash? So Mainsail I haven't really looked into, but it's basically a replacement for Octoprint. So I think it supports some of the standard Octoprint plugins, but not all of them, if any. I really haven't been following that too closely. Yeah. But yeah, it's getting close to midnight, so I'm going to call it now because I got to get up early. So I thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sparks. No smoke though, just a little bit of sparks. And I hope you join in next week where hopefully this guy should be moving. So thank you all again for joining me, keeping me company. I hope this has been entertaining and you've learned something. And if you have any questions, I have videos on my channel for assembling a lot of the other major components for the V2 and some other projects. So don't forget to subscribe if you would like to see more. See the alerts for when I do go live, just in case I happen to do a stream outside of the standard Saturday night. But yeah, thank you all. Have a good night. Don't forget to wash your hands and be safe out there.